let us start off. You're from a musical family, basically, a celebrity dad. Your sister, your brother, everybody's also a part of the music. What was it like for Stephen McGregor growing up?
Um, it always weird when people ask me that because it's like that's the only way I knew. So, but yeah, but for me it was pretty normal. But I guess as I got older, I started to realize like the impact of like being in that particular situation with my father
Mm-hmm.
being who he is and like just how our life set up basically. And then I realized that it's a little different than how everybody grew up. So. But like I said, for me, for the most part, it's all I knew, so it was pretty normal.
Mm-hmm. No, most 5 year olds, right? They're running around the house, they're breaking stuff. And as a dad with children, you definitely know what your 5 year olds are doing. But at the age of 5, you actually wrote and recorded your song, School
Yeah,
Done Rule.
yeah.
Um, what do you remember about that moment?
Um, I remember like it's funny enough because that was so long ago, but I still remember like the
Mm-hmm.
actual recording process with my father being there and the producer at the time, Noel Brownie, and like we were just all there, and I just remember how excited I was to be in that situation because I used to just always watch everybody work, and that was fascinating to me. So to be in there, actually doing it myself, I still remember how exciting that was for me. But
Mm-hmm.
but even still at that point, I wasn't looking at it like oh, this is what I'm going to do. This is going to be my career. It was just I was just doing it because all the resources were there.
Right, but 5 years later, there
Yeah.
you are at the age of 10, and you're playing roughly five different instruments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You're playing the guitar, you're playing the drums, the violin. Um, what or who actually inspired your musical interests?
I just again I think it just come back to having parents who allowed me to just explore. You know, like my dad built the studio when I was 5, and even then it wasn't a pressure like, oh, you should learn an instrument or you should do something. It just like left it open for us to like, if you're interested, you can do this. But it's there. So I think just having them being open enough to allow me to explore and, oh, I want to do violin lessons, and then I end up do that, or I could just play around with some of the stuff in the studio, and that became development for me without even realizing it.
As you would have alluded before, like your environment as a child would have been different from the ordinary child. Like you're seeing your dad as a superstar. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure there were other celebrities around as well. What was it like for you going to Vaz Prep and then Arden High? Were you treated differently among your peers? Like, yo, superstar father, and whole celebrity family. What was that vibe like?
No, I mean, well, at school, no, because the music part of it is something I never used to talk about at all. So it's like even when I was in high school, and by then I had like big rhythms on the radio and whatever. But even just if only persons in my immediate friend circle would have known that that's what I was doing when I went home. But nobody
Mm-hmm.
else never know that. It's like after I graduate now, people start like teachers and things would have come to me like, "Yo, you never told me that was you." Blah, blah, blah. Because I'm hearing the genius done at school. I'm just Stephen McGregor. So
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
it's two different things. But yeah, but like you said, having the environment to, I think that was the biggest part of the inspiration for me. Like coming home from school and walking into the studio, seeing my father with, I don't know, Slan Robbie or Steely and Cleaver, just like the legends, and seeing them work. I think that
Mm-hmm.
was the biggest privilege to me to be able to just have a first-hand look into that environment. And
Can you
that
remember,
inspired me.
like, even watching your dad with a Sly and Robbie? Like, what were some of the things that you were soaking up? Like, you looking and saying, "Boy, did it occur to you at that point that you would want to be like this, or you want to be a producer?" When did that dream in your heart come about?
Yeah, I just remember always feeling inspired seeing the creative process of it. Like I just remember seeing somebody start making the rhythm to seeing Uncle Dalton, rest in peace, come in and play guitars and sing harmony, and then like seeing my father record the song, and then going on tour with him and seeing him perform it for like 20,000 people in Japan. So to me that was just mind blowing, like, yo, I watched
Mm-hmm.
this from scratch and then see it turn out into, so that to me was like the most fascinating thing. So I think that was the biggest inspiration, definitely. And then as I started to explore my own creativity now. As I mean, I had an experience at that already, so I knew how far it could go, basically.
Hmm. When did you know that you have this love for dancehall? Because you started out, a hardcore dancehall producer.
Mm.
When did that started?
Well, actually, I tell you, when my first set of rhythm them that I did start make wasn't actually dancehall. I was just
Mm-hmm.
experimenting. I used to like sample heavy, like sample like Curtis Mayfield and like more hip hop kind of sound and stuff too. But then my dancehall sound came from me being influenced by all of what I grew up on, and then all of what was happening like at the time with the Neptunes and Timbaland, and so my style was kind of like a merge of all of that. That's why some of the stuff they kind of sound hybrid, like
Mm-hmm.
because I was such a fan of music for like what was happening in dancehall, but also what I was listening to at the time and what was happening around me. So
What did your parents think about how you were creating and the direction that you wanted to go in? Because sometimes parents, they can be nurturing in a way to the point where it if they're not careful, it can stifle your creativity,
mm,
or
yeah, yeah.
not allowing you to just be. What was your situation like? Were you groomed in a way to say, oh, you want to do producing, why don't you try singing as well, or
Mm.
why don't you try producing more reggae beats? What was the household like?
Yeah, I mean, like I mentioned before, it's just a thing again about having parents that just really allowed me to just be and
Be.
just create and just them never really tried to get involved. Even my father being a legend and being a creative too, he never really get involved in what I was doing creatively. I'm just like obviously like just general guidance and just the principle of how they are. So I know that I would have stayed within certain lines with
Mm-hmm.
respect to the family name, but but still allow me to just figure out my journey and do my thing. So that
At
I think
what
that's one of the biggest blessings I got to
mhm.
as an individual.
At what point did they start calling you the genius? How did that monkey come about?
So so one of the first persons who called me that was actually Future Fambo.
Oh.
Yeah, because I remember I was recording him. I did have a juggling at the time. I think it did them Dutch Master, and I was recording him and singing melody at the time. And I remember it being like really late, and I did kind of remind him like, "Yo, man, school, I'm on." And then that's how it came up. And it was like, "Yo, yeah, how much?" I think I was like 11, 12 at the time, and they were like, "Yo, yeah, 12, and I do all of them things in the studio." Like, "Yo, the genius," that kind of vibe. And
Mhm.
then friends and everybody around it, the name started to stick after that.
But being so young though, what was that vibe like? Like when you're recording, you're recording people like Movado,
Yeah.
Cartel, really big names.
Mhm.
Did they listen to you if in that moment you wanted them to be a particular way on the beat or sound this type of way? What was that interaction like?
This is something I say all the time to like other producers, and I think that's one of the key components to me having success with them because the relationship developed in a way where I am a big fan of the music and fan of the artists too, separate from me producing them. So I think there's a trust situation that them just know that I rate them so much and respect their talent so much that if I make a suggestion or something, it's out of a place of just wanting the song to be better. So it's
Mm-hmm.
a less critical thing of like, oh, this producer judged me kind of thing. Like, so like, and the same way, like even when I work with somebody like Movado, we kind of have like an unspoken thing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
like him will sing something in the booth, him kind of look at me, and him we can see it on my face if I'm into what I do or not. So without us having to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
But and that is because of that trust that developed because them know say I'm a fan too, and then vice versa. So if I play my rhythm, and same thing, I know how him respond and know say, oh, I'm like this one, let's work on it,
Mm-hmm.
or it's kind of that thing. So I think the trust have to build up like that with the respect things to make the working relationship be good.
Cool. And speaking of Movado, because you also, according to my research, you helped to write his hit "Wedemadu." How did you meet Vado, and was this your introduction to dancehall at the age of 15?
hmm well, I never wrote on that like lyrically, but I
Co-wrote.
write on it
Mm-hmm.
because I wrote the music. But I actually I knew him from before, cause like Cassava piece really close by where we are, and then we knew each other from before that. because he had recorded for me on previous rhythms too before we were both like at that level. Um, and remember, I did Red Bull and Guinness with Deli Ranks, and then so I think that's how that connection came back on that juggling, and then I recorded it and mixed it and thing, and yeah, that song really blew up. So that was the one of my first like bigger moment from dancehall too, cause that song went on to the Billboard chart and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of thing. But the relationship was developing prior to that, like I said.
But you know, Stephen, like all the years I've known you, I mean, from you just started growing your locks to now your locks are extremely long. Um, you've always maintained this relaxed, humble type of persona. How did you not allow like all this success to get to your head at such an early age?
Yeah. Well, for that, I think it's two things. For one, kind of like what we touched on before. I kind of grew up in that situation, so in a way, I was kind of used to seeing a lot of that firsthand before. And then, my reason for starting music too is another big part of it. Because, like I said before, I really only started music just from honestly just falling in love with the process and being fascinated by it. I never have any other goal like, oh, I just want to be famous or anything else, or it wasn't money motivated or anything. So for me, like any little level I got to was just enough for me to be like grateful and be like, whoa, like actually have a rhythm I play on the radio and then like just growing the way we were raised to like my father always say a thing like it never happened until it happened. So
Mm-hmm.
I don't get ahead of myself with anything. Like if something really big happens, just like all right, cool, grateful, and we'll just move on, and not like a everybody should stop and kind of praise me kind of vibe.
But even what you're saying now, Stephen, like there's also a thin line in that moment because here it is, you're reaping success and you know you're going places. But what kept you hungry though for you to still push further and not settle for where you are and what you have achieved thus far?
Um, I think that's just like again just staying motivated and just kind of knowing that there's really no limit to where it can go. I go from just kind of visualizing having music being played amongst other producers and other artists that I like the music to knowing that that's possible to a next level to like can be mentioned in like Grammy situation or like so it's just me knowing mentally that there's always more to go and there's more that can be achieved and just like from watching your peers too like I'm one of those persons where I get motivated and inspired when I see my other peers do great things too. So it helped to just keep you excited and I really just do music because I love it.
Mm-hmm.
If the focus changed to something else, I feel like I would be less inspired to do it. But I just honestly love the process of music. Like I'll stay in here for hours and just create.
Cool. No, you mentioned Red Bull and Guineas. You have After Dark, Daybreak, Day Rave, Outbreak, Bad People Championship, Street
Yeah.
Swag, Winning. I mean, I could go on and on. You have created so many different rhythms. Which rhythms or rhythm are you most proud of and why?
That's a difficult one. I
I
don't think
know
I
it's
ever
tough,
even
but you
answered
must
that
have that one that really, you know, love that rhythm, yeah.
I don't know. It's hard because I feel because I put the same kind of effort into all of them. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I don't think there's any I love more than any, to be honest. I know like
Mm-hmm.
some of them make different impact. Like I've said before, like a Red Bull and Guinness, when I did that with Delhi at the time, that kind of took me to a next place and then set me up for the other stage of my career and like that kind of thing. But in terms of me personally loving one more than any, I don't think I can honestly say that.
Mm-hmm. Have you ever had like a moment where because in everything we do and on the road to success and people seeing you striving and you rising and you sticking with it and you working hard, how do you deal with detractors, persons who attempt to say, boy, him so young, him not even know him a door or
Yeah,
whatever.
yeah.
Do you hear those persons and how did you deal with it at that period coming up?
Yeah, I mean, you definitely hear that, and like the road to success is not gonna be bumpy like that too. But I think the most important part of it is like being self-aware, and
Mm-hmm.
I'm generally like that too. I'm not really like I'm more like to myself type of person, so I'm usually like more self-directed where I can like get criticism or whatever, and then I can kind of analyze it for myself and then take it from there, and not somewhat and not get pressured by too much external things like that. So I would say all of the things same way, and just use it as motivation same way. There's obviously like enough back and forth and enough politics and the music business go, but
Mm-hmm.
I think, like I said, it come back to my why. The reason why you start doing what you're doing is the most important, because that will determine how you navigate through the highs and the lows. Because nobody not gonna have highs all the time.
Mm-hmm.
So when you're having a
And
low time or a
go
down
ahead,
time,
sorry.
when you're having that time, like that, your why help you to either stick with it or leave it alone.
And in this forum, it's really important to sort of share how successful individuals deal with low periods or low moments. How do
Yeah.
you deal with your lows, and do you have like a strong support system, an inner circle that you actually, go to regroup and start all over again?
hmm Um, like I said, for the most part, I think it's just being self-aware and just like being aware of, like, navigating through those feelings and those emotions too, because music itself and creating is such like a vulnerable place, because you might work on something for crazy and then you come out and nothing will happen with it, or people have different opinions. So it's just being able to trust yourself and trust your feeling and be like, this might not turn out the way how you were planning to, but you can move on, you can try something else. And and just being aware that nobody don't have all of this figured out, so I don't expect, as talented as I am or whatever, I don't expect 100% that every single thing that I do will resonate either. So again, it's just being self-aware and not being oblivious to that fact that something might not work at some point, but
Mm-hmm.
just being able to ride out those moments and just like having a system, however, whether that's mentally or like you said with people, how you can bounce back and regroup and navigate to get a new place again.
And just even speaking about self-awareness, that in itself is so important, because even with you, looking at you, is like you're humble but you're militant, and we see that through when at the period when you created Can't Friend Again.
Oh
This in itself was a track where you spoke your mind,
yeah.
and you're just doing the music and working with talented artists.
hmm
Take us back to this period of your life, and why you actually dealt with the situation the way you did.
hmm um yeah, again, like kind of, oh, you said it, that's like the self-awareness part, and just trying to the self-awareness help you to not go out of character too, because in a situation like that, everybody know most people would have probably go about it differently. But again, I have a whole heap of things like my own career and like you mentioned before, the family legacy and all of that, where I have to kind of keep all of that in line. So again, it just is kind of just approaching even a situation like a fallout with me and an artist in a more mature way, but still getting the point across, and still making that kind of stance without like leading down a different path that you probably are gonna look back on a couple years and regret and be like, oh, John, probably shouldn't do that. So just like, again, it's just, I think, the self-awareness in everything too, outside of even music. That's, I think, one of the most important thing everybody need to kind of develop and be tapped into.
Yeah, look here. That diss track is a classic. I mean, you said what you said, no expletives, no
Yeah,
disparaging comments,
yeah,
but you said what you said.
yeah.
No, you mentioned thinking about your career in as it relates to the long term. How
Mhm.
important is it for a producer or just anybody at all on their road to success to outline your journey and sort of look to see where you want to be or where you want to go, and stay focused and
Mhm.
on that path?
Yeah, I think you really have to have a long term look at whatever you're doing. Any career really, because especially now in a time where nothing is really exclusive anymore. Everybody can do what everybody else can do. Like I said, I think I'm really good at what I do, but I'm not oblivious again to the fact that a million other people can do what I can do too. So it's just like the insides of that and planning all of that is what important and what will decide your journey and how long you will outlast whatever it is. So so I think it's just a thing of you don't try chase or whatever, and you kind of just outline your situation and have a vision for where you think you can go, and just work at that, and that will allow you to have patience with it too, if you're not chasing and you just outline your journey. And because at the end of the day, people look at you and people don't really look at your timeline. Like you mentioned before, I started out when I was 5, and then 5 years later, I build Redeem, and then the next 5 years, it take me to another achievement. But when people look at my career as a whole, them just look at the things like the achievements, but them don't realize like, oh, it did take 5 years to move from this point to this point. Most people planning them career don't want to wait 5 years for something. They just want everything now, 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it help when you have a clear vision of what you're trying to do and where you're trying to go. It help you for like allow that patience and just allow you to ride out the journey basically.
Let's talk about Stephen, the musical ambassador. You fly the Jamaican flag so hard and so high internationally. What are some of the things that you actually consider when you're working with, these international counterparts as a successful producer from the rock?
One of the most important things, I kind of just try to go into every room as myself. There's a thing that a lot of producers and a lot of creatives get tripped up on. They enter into certain situations, and them kind of try to change and adjust what they do to fit that thing. But I think the reason why you get called into the position anyway is because of what you do. So I just try to go into all of those rooms, just being myself. It's like when I was doing the John Legend stuff the other day. I remember when I went into the studio with him and he played me most of what he already had.
Mm-hmm.
The song with Coffee. I remember that's why I pulled up that track because I was like, all right, I can't outplay John Legend or like make another thing that them already know how to do at them very best. So I just do what I can do, and I know like other people not can't do that same thing as easy. So I just go in there as myself, like I said. So
Mm-hmm.
that's them want the representation and your how you interpret it that way.
And do you think, because of your approach, because being able to dissect it the way you did, and then just going in there looking at, okay, he already has this track with Coffee, you're going in there to do something different. Do you think this is why you're so sorted after?
Yeah, I think just being able to kind of maneuver through different situations, because there's some cases where I'll go into some rooms where it don't have anything to do with my culture or whatever, and I kind of have to work in that way. Like, thankfully, I'm a musician and I know how to do that. But for the most part, we're all really just working off instinct, So you're lucky enough if you get to work with somebody who appreciates how you are interpreting what they should do too. Because, like I said, there's no real rules to like how you make music. It's really just that.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of, being in different spaces and different environment, there is something on YouTube where listeners can go and check it out for themselves as well. The Apple Music Producer Lab, that is something that you did, and just watching you in the moment, like I felt really proud as a Jamaican. I felt proud, yeah, no, Stephen, big up yourself, and just even how you represented yourself. For persons who don't know, it was basically a workshop where you are sharing your producer
Yeah,
skills
I
and
kind of have to walk through it.
introducing new and creative ways to other producers as well. What
Yeah.
was your takeaway from that session with you giving of yourself in the moment?
Um, yeah, it's just like it's inspiring people because a lot of the people who were there were even people who weren't musicians at all. They were just fascinated with seeing like the creative process, and then they got into stuff like that after that event. So, yeah, it's just like representing and showing your process, and it's kind of just it show you playing a part in inspiring people. And I think the biggest takeaway for me was that just like using your own personal approach and your methods and using that as inspiration. I think that's important with the journey to spread that as much as possible. Because, like I mentioned earlier, the reason why I started creating how I created was because I was so inspired by everything and everybody else who was before me and working around me. So I think that's a key element to creativity on a whole. You just want to make sure you're inspired and sharing your inspiration too.
What keeps you creative though? Because it's almost as if when you feel like you've gotten enough from Stephen, here it is, you just continue pushing the envelope and you're trying new things and you're just being innovative. But what keeps you creative and on your toes?
Just being a fan of the music. Like, I do music for a living now. Thankfully, I mean that alone is crazy enough. But just to be able to like enjoy the music, like I listen to music from that place first. Like a lot of people who in my position, they listen to music from a critical place, like, oh, them should have did this different, whatever. Like I listen to anything at all, really, like anybody, and just try to appreciate it for what it is, and then I can put on my work hat differently, and just be like, all right, this is what I would have do with this, and but like I like when enough people complain about like enough of the new artists them now, but like, I listen to enough of them and it's just fun to me. It's just it's
Mm-hmm.
just a vibe, and I appreciate the music for what it is.
Speaking of the new artists, no, Stephen, like when you listen to them, is there anyone that stands out to you or you feel like, yo, this is somebody that you definitely want to work with?
Yeah, I mean, I like most of them, to be honest. A lot of the girls too is really good. I think the women are harder right now than even most of the men.
Mm-hmm.
Which is something good because for years it was such a men-driven thing. So I'm glad to see like most of, even the other day when I did do a live on Instagram, a lot of the women who called in were getting most of the responses. So, but I like most of the music now for real.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just it going to a new time where we're transitioning into something else. And I think a lot of the criticism come from people not understanding or seeing where it can go. But it's just everything take time. But you're just watching it in real time, so it gets a lot of like. Just
Mm-hmm.
like when I was coming out, my sound was so different and same thing, and they get enough criticism for that until it got to a place that makes sense. So I think,
Mm-hmm.
but it's music, and they're going to always have music that you like or music that resonate to other type of people. But yeah, the new talent now, most of them are really like.
Cool. I was reading an article, right? And Guy Moot, co-chair and CEO of Warner at Chapel Music, an American music publishing company and division of Warner Music Group, he said, your critically acclaimed chart topping work has taken you far beyond your Jamaican roots and made you much in demand by hit makers across the globe. On your journey, what was it that kept you hungry, Stephen? I know you kind of allude to it before, but here it is. You're working with John Legend. You are working with Drake. You're getting a lot of the big gigs. You're rubbing shoulders with Rihanna as well. But then, you started out because you're fascinated by this thing called music. But
Yeah.
what keeps you grinding?
I mean, honestly, I think that's just that fascination, keeping that fascination alive. I think, cause you see people break records and you see people like move the needle in such a way, and that to me is enough fuel for me to like. Cause even before I started like having my own success, I just remember like being excited and hearing like listening to IRIE and like hearing a DJ premiere like Dave Kelly New Rhythm or like a Don Carleon or anybody and just listening. I'm like, yo, hear them do that, and like that fascination to me is what makes me want to create too. And just knowing that like it can happen from any angle too. So like I can do a lot of the things that I've done before, and getting into new situations and kind of like challenging myself too. Like I have some sessions now coming up with some like country artists,
Oh,
so like
nice.
that's something I haven't really that like gone deep into. But for me, it's like an exciting new challenge. Like, oh, now I have to think like maybe I'm gonna
Outside the
bring in the
box.
next guitarist for this now who can play that style different, and it's just a new. It keep me like excited doing the process like that. So
As an international producer, right? This is a subject that sometimes ruffle the feathers of some Jamaican entertainers. But what do you think about foreigners doing reggae and dancehall? Do you see it wherein they're pulling or capturing our culture, or is it broadening the scope and introducing or music to a wider audience? What's your perception?
Yeah, I think from my personal view, I think it helps. You know, it keeps the culture relevant, and I think it's just the responsibility now just come down to our creatives to use that as leverage. You know, when somebody sample a beat for us or use a style from us, you know, it put we back in the position. Like you have producers like myself, who like heavy in the space in America now, and like other Jamaicans like Russian and like Super Dupes and other people like that who are here now mostly. It gives us opportunities too. Like when a label or somebody think, oh, we need this dancehall thing, they're gonna call one of us first. You know, because it's relevant in that space. And you know, I always say, look at the flip side. There's a lot of other music that was popular before that nobody talks about now. So when I think other people keep on taking our kind of influence and using it, it helps to keep us in the space. And I think it's just for a matter of us to just strike that now and just be like, take that opportunity to use it. And then, you know, but I think when you don't act on it now and then just complain about it, it kind of make the opportunity disappear because like it's there, but then nobody act on it, and then everybody just move on after that again. Because there's a lot of people working on reggae right now up here.
Knowing what you know, right? What advice would you give to members of the entertainment industry, knowing that there are lots of persons working on reggae and dancehall and trying to replicate our sound? What would you say to them as somebody who you basically have a bird's eye view, a wider scope in terms of what's happening?
Yeah, I think just put out your best work, you know, and like I said, try to leverage those opportunities however you can, you know, from where you are, whether you're going to travel and connect with it or just try to reach out to people from where you are. Because, you know, one of the main things is people want to do it and want to be a part of the culture. A lot of people just don't know how. So, you know, when you see some people complain like, oh, this person is like, take the culture or whatever, them kind of just don't know how because, especially internally, to a lot of times we look so unorganized. So I think we just have to get focused on it and just kind of just get ready for all of the opportunities. So whenever they come up, you can just move on them, and not just like be in a place of complaining about it and oh yeah, them teeth will start, cause then that gets us
Mm-hmm.
nowhere either. So I think if you just use, so like if you see, I don't know, Justin Bieber or somebody do a dancehall song, we can be like, oh, that's how them they know we can do this easy, and then you try just expand on that. Cause every time I see it happen all the time, whenever we complain about something that one of those artists do, I look back on our music and we don't have anything that sound like it, but we still
Mm-hmm.
complain about them having a Billboard chart topping song that sound like us. You know, so it's just like be prepared so you don't have to panic in the moment.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. COVID has basically changed a lot of things for us, and even the technological age, like a lot of things now are virtual. Um, has the virtual platform now you basically have your fans, followers of your music at your fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
And traditional mediums are not necessarily the ultimate or the only way to go. Would you say that the technological age and since COVID March last year, has it changed the way you are producing music, creating music, or even go about your strategic plan to put out music?
Yeah, we definitely have to be more resourceful for sure. That's one of the main things. But yeah, I think yeah, you have to, I think everybody getting more creative now because we kind of have to. So like even because I haven't been doing a lot of like in person sessions. A lot of it has been like Zoom and thing, and the in person stuff I've been doing like it's a whole process. You have to get tested every day before and all that too. But yeah, I think just it has made us more resourceful and more creative. I mean, a lot of good things come from it so far, and like you see now, like you have TikTok and them thing. There were enough
Mm-hmm.
artists and enough music showing like big interest in that stuff because more people using those platforms too. So I think there's a benefit in everything for real. It's just some people figure it out good.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Stephen, 2012 was sort of when I think we got your last dancehall juggling.
Oh,
No, um, What is the likelihood of getting a dancehall juggling from Steve the Genius in 2021?
Yeah, no, I have some right now, more than one actually.
Oh,
That
nice.
I finishing up right now. I just trying to finish like a couple more songs, like maybe like three more songs or so. But them I have them on the way right now. So in the very near future.
Oh, that sounds
No, no,
very
because
near
just I'm
future.
mixing now, but I just waiting to record like those other songs and then. Well, like it's the same thing, like you said, it's remotely for a lot of the stuff. So it's just navigate,
Mm-hmm.
getting this recording done or whatever. But yeah, but I'm coming though, like within the next month.
Now, earlier on in the reasoning, you mentioned, being locked down in the studio in your creative elements and just working. That in itself can be a process that pull you away from the people you love the most.
Mm-hmm.
How do you create a balance to ensure that your family life is good when and your creative process is also flowing?
Mm-hmm. I think it's just a matter of just giving respect to each of those aspects. It's like how you live your normal life. Like if you're somebody who exercise, said some days you're not gonna feel like it. You have to give time to this thing though, and you just figure out your kind of system that work for you. But I think anything that's important, you have to give time to it. Like I'll have days when I come in the studio for days and there's nothing like that really productive come out of it, but that leads me to another place of this one thing come out of me working for 7 days. So like I say, if it's important, you figure out how that timeline can work for you. Sometimes for me, it mean me coming to the studio really late, or some days like no, where I'm here like super early. But it's just figure out your own personal system.
What
But
is,
the balance is never easy when you do something
yeah,
creative.
I can
It's
imagine.
hours and hours. You'll be in here for 2 days.
That is crazy. What's the best part about being a dad?
Um, I don't know. It's just that's a whole different inspiration too. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like seeing somebody who like you kind of basically responsible for them life. That's a whole different inspiration too. And then again, it put me in that space of where I can see how my parents used to see me, and you understand the responsibilities and the importance of that too. So that's a really good place.
Now, are your children fascinated by the music? I remember doing a story when your daughter basically recorded the
Oh
track
yeah,
and you put it out. So I know she's musically
yeah, she love
inclined,
it.
but talk to us about that excitement. And is it an area that you would nurture them in or encourage them to be a part of?
Yeah, again, it's just like kind of the same way I came up is a natural interest without me forcing anything, and just alone having all the resources available and allowing them if them decide that they want to do that seriously or but just being having it available and like giving whatever necessary guidance needed. But yeah, it's funny to see that same natural interest at like the same age where I was and I did
Hmm.
that. So it's interesting to kind of see like that whole thing repeat itself
You
in
should see
some
your
way.
face and how you're lighting up just talking about your children.
Yeah. No, and that's a big inspiration too. So
In all we do, service is important. How does Stephen the Genius give back?
um, I mean, without like on a general aspect of it, a lot of it again, like I mentioned, like when you asked about the Apple thing, is just being available to give some of those like inspiration and some of the direct ideas to like in terms of music, I'm always available for like talk to people and like help people, and me and different producers always have like different convos and back and forth with ideas too. So like stuff like that, and then giving back generally too is just a thing that is an ongoing thing from the start, whether that's like personally or on a more open scale, like where people can see stuff like that. But I think just being in a place where we're always creating and we're working basically for the people, like you said, it's a
Mm-hmm.
service. When I put out a rhythm or something, is for them. So you're generally always in a place of giving, and just having being open to knowing that that's what the responsibility is. So so that come with all aspects of it too, I think.
No, most people would love to get a Grammy or even get a Grammy nomination. Yet you have contributed to Grammy nominated and Grammy winning albums on your projects for the likes of Drake, Burna Boy, Chronix, Damian Jr. Gong Marley,
Yes.
Shakira, John Legend, Mali Music, and more. Um, how do you select the people that you work with? Have you ever turned down anyone on the international scene because it doesn't fit or go quite well with your brand? And yeah, how do you just sort of sort out and finalize who you want to work with? Do you have to feel connected to the project, or what's the process for you?
Um, it's funny. I never really think about it like that. A lot of it kind of just happened naturally, and then some of the connections at least, and then in terms of like the more business side of it, I don't really deal with all of that, thankfully. So I have management and team who can help navigate through some of those parts where they might think this might not be a really great fit or whatever. So they will probably pull me out of a situation like that or something. But for the most part, when it's me working creatively with someone, it's just like if it works, it works. Like I mentioned, like when I did the John Legend session, it was just the one time, and it was the first time I met him. But because we had a good session, then I ended up working on more stuff with him, and we develop a relationship like that. So it's kind of like that. But yeah, I think on the more business part of it, where if something aligned with your brand or whatever, some of my more business team would handle some of that for me.
Mm-hmm. How important is it to have a team though? Because sometimes we've seen locally where a lot of entertainers they will get to a level on their own and feel like, yo, if me gets afar by myself, I don't need nobody.
No,
Is
that's one of the
having
biggest
a
things.
management team and structure important in this business?
Yeah, no, I think is one of the biggest, most important things. Especially that's what I see happening to most of the dancehall artists now too. Because dancehall in Jamaica, the talent is endless. Like we don't ever have a debate about the talent, but I feel like a lot of people get capped because they don't have the system. Like I know a lot of talented people who should be much further too, and because they don't have a team. Like most people manager are like man or them grow up with or whatever. Like
Mm-hmm.
friend will just go and take some bookings for them, but like you have to have like, and if you check all our real successes from Jamaica, it's always people who have had those teams, Sean Paul and Shaggy and Shaban, like all those people. So, and I feel like no matter how talented they are, the talent need a coach. Usain Bolt the greatest, but you still have a coach.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the artists have to look at it like that too. Like I am good at music, I don't enjoy doing a lot of the business part of the stuff, and I'm aware of that. So it's good when I can have somebody doing that for me, and them get paid to do that and whatever, and that's their job. And it helped me for just stay in this space and just be creative, so I don't feel like me I try and work, but me I still have to go send them email and try to figure out things. So I think we definitely every creative need a system like that for sure.
And we're coming down to the wire, but do you think rivalry is still a great marketing tool for dancehall, or has the genre outgrown that?
I feel like we kind of outgrow it for sure because we're in a place now where I think no more than ever we need for work together because I think the genre need it. Like we need to even look more organized more than anything. So and I think even if that means we just work together, even if we're not trying to be like best friends, but just for the business side of it, we have to, like I said, we have to look organized and look together. Like most of the artists them in America who used to work together, they're not necessarily real friends like that, but they understand what the business requires. So, so yeah, I feel like that part of it kind of dead because of that, and I feel like, and then generally we can't ignore the reality of what's happening in the country too, like with all of the crime and everything to like, so we have to take some of the responsibilities for steer things better like that too. because it's influence and all of that. So I think that part I kind of did know for real, and it's more
Mm-hmm.
of a progressive part where we should just be working together and just try to help take everybody to the next level because it helps all of us when it works for any of us. So I think that's how we should start focusing now.
Looking back at your journey, Stephen, what are you most proud of?
Um, wow. I mean, I would say honestly, like even just the support from people like you guys, and because it's one thing to be creative and to be able to do all of that, but it's the next thing for it to translate to other people. I know a lot more people way more talented than myself who probably don't get to the same place yet, and it's not like it's just luck or something. So I think that's what I would say. And then the other part, I would say just like the tenacity to just like we said before, to just ride some of those waves and the highs and lows and just be able to just ride it out.
The road to success is different for everybody.
Yeah.
Um, However, what would you consider some key ingredients to attaining success?
I would say definitely, like I mentioned before, the self-awareness is a big part. And then I would also say just being able to learn. All of the greatest leaders are great followers. Them kind of things. So just being able to do that, like I with all of my quote unquote success, I still go into every session brand new. Like I want to learn something else. Like I always like to be the least talented person in the room. So I can just learn something else. That mean when I leave the session, I learn something else on my computer or something. So, just being able to learn like that and just hone your skill and know that there's always more to go. That kind of thing. So it's just kind of like having that humility to know that you have a lot more to go, but still be confident enough with your skill and know that you can push through whatever it is.
Oh, see, with that's our time. But before we go, any parting words or any more gems you'd like to drop?
Um, I don't know. I just feel like everybody, let's just get focused together and just we just help, especially everybody from in Jamaica, all of the creatives. Like we just like come together and just like push the envelope. I think now is the time where a lot of people looking at us and we can strike it right now, and it's going to be a good opportunity for everybody. So we just work together and stay focused. And anybody coming up on the journey, just stay focused, stay inspired, stay motivated. I think once you put all of those things together, it's kind of automatic. You have to make it at some point.
Wow. Stephen the Genius, thank you so much. And you continue to remain humble but militant. And we're seeing the work that you're doing. We're following your success and you're making us absolutely proud and continue to fly the Jamaican flag high.
Yeah, man. Thank you.